Welcome. In the world of Samartha Technologies. Samartha Technology is led by highly professional and qualified directors. Mr. Sandeep Kulkarni is BE Mechanical, MBA, and lead auditor for CE marking and ISO 22000. Mr. Amarendra Mohamuni is graduate in chemistry, graduate in food and fermentation technology from UTCT Mumbai, and did business management. He is food technology consultant and ISO and HACCP consultant. He is also HACCP and ISO 22000 lead auditor. Brief presentation on the project of ISO 22001 with Samartha Technologies. We are known expert in this subject. We offer consultancy and certification for food industry for almost everything. ISO 22000 is a generic food safety management system standard. It defines a set of general food safety requirements that apply to all organizations in the food chain. These requirements are listed in sections 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. If your organization is part of the food chain, ISO 22000 wants you to establish a food safety management system, FSMS. It then wants you to use this system to ensure that food products do not cause adverse human health effects. ISO 22000 is designed to be used for certification, registration purposes. In other words, once you've established a FSMS that meets ISO's requirements, you can ask a registrar to audit your system. If your registrar agrees that you've met the ISO 22000 requirements, it will issue an official certificate that states that your FSMS meets the ISO 22000 food safety requirements. However, you don't have to be certified, registered. ISO does not require certification, registration. You can be in compliance without being formally registered by an accredited auditor. You can self-assess your system and simply declare to the world that your FSMS complies with ISO 22000, if it does. Of course, your customers and business partners are more likely to believe that you have an effective FSMS if an independent auditor says so. Since ISO 22000 is a generic food safety management standard, it can be used by any organization directly or indirectly involved in the food chain. It applies to all organizations in the food chain. It doesn't matter how complex the organization is, or what size it is. ISO 22000 can help ensure the safety of its food products. The food chain consists of the entire sequence of stages and operations involved in the creation and consumption of food products. This includes every step from initial production to final consumption. More precisely, it includes the production, processing, distribution, storage, and handling of all food and food ingredients. The food chain also includes organizations that do not directly handle food. These include organizations that produce feed for animals that produce food and for animals that will be used as food. It also includes organizations that produce materials that will eventually come into contact with food or food ingredients. ISO 22000 can be used by following organizations who are in primary producers, farms, ranches, fisheries, dairies. Processors include fish processors, meat processors, poultry processors, feed processors, Manufacturers includes soup manufacturers, snack manufacturers, bread manufacturers, cereal manufacturers, dressing manufacturers, beverage manufacturers, seasoning manufacturers, packaging manufacturers, frozen food manufacturers, canned food manufacturers, confectionery manufacturers, dietary supplement manufacturers, food service providers, grocery stores, restaurants, cafeterias, hospitals, hotels, resorts, airlines, cruise ships, seniors lodges, nursing homes, other service providers, storage service providers, catering service providers, logistics service providers, transportation service providers, distribution service providers, sanitation service providers, cleaning service providers, product suppliers, suppliers of tools, suppliers of utensils, suppliers of equipment, suppliers of additives, suppliers of ingredients, suppliers of raw materials, suppliers of cleaning agents, suppliers of sanitizing agents, suppliers of packaging materials, suppliers of other food contact materials. Of course, the previous catalog does not exhaust the list of organizations that could benefit from the use of this standard. ISO 22000 applies to all organizations directly or indirectly involved in the food chain, not just the ones listed here. ISO 22000 will help you to achieve the following objectives. To establish a food safety management system, FSMS. To plan and implement your FSMS for your organization. To operate and maintain your organization's FSMS. To update and improve your organization's FSMS. To ensure that products do not cause adverse health effects. To demonstrate compliance with external safety requirements. To demonstrate compliance with legal safety requirements. To demonstrate compliance with regulatory requirements. To demonstrate compliance with statutory requirements. To demonstrate compliance with customer requirements. To evaluate your customers' food safety requirements. To provide safe products and enhance customer satisfaction. To export food products and penetrate international markets. To communicate safety issues throughout the food chain. To communicate with your organization's customers. To communicate with your organization's suppliers. To communicate with other relevant interested parties. To ensure that you comply with your food safety policy. To demonstrate compliance to all interested parties. ISO 22000 uses roughly the same basic structure as the ISO 9001 Quality Management Standard. This should make it a bit easier for ISO 9001 certified organizations to pursue ISO 22000 certification. ISO 22000 uses HACCP. HACCP stands for Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Point. It was developed by the Codex Alimentarius Commission. HACCP is a methodology and a management system. It is used to identify, prevent, and control food safety hazards. HACCP management systems apply the following methodology. Conduct a food safety hazard analysis. Identify your critical control points, CCPs. Establish critical limits for each critical control point. Develop procedures to monitor critical control points. Design corrective actions to handle critical limit violations. Create a food safety record-keeping system. Validate and verify your system. This methodology is used to develop an HACCP plan. An HACCP plan is a document that describes how an organization plans to manage and control its food safety hazards. An HACCP plan contains at least the following information. Critical control points, CCPs. Hazards that will be controlled at each CCP. Control measures that will be used at each CCP. Critical limits that will be applied at each CCP. Procedures that will be used to monitor CCPs. Actions that will be taken when limits are violated. ISO 22000 shows organizations how to combine the HACCP plan with prerequisite programs, or programs, and operational prerequisite programs into a single integrated food safety management strategy. Prerequisite programs, PRPs, are the conditions that must be established throughout the food chain and the activities and practices that must be performed in order to establish and maintain a hygienic environment. PRPs must be suitable and be capable of providing food that is safe for human consumption. PRPs are also referred to as good hygienic practices, good agricultural practices, good production practices, good manufacturing practices, good distribution practices, and good trading practices. Operational prerequisite programs, OPRPs, are prerequisite programs, PRPs, that are essential. They are essential because a hazard analysis has shown that they are necessary in order to control specific food safety hazards. OPRPs are used to reduce the likelihood that products will be exposed to hazards, that they will be contaminated, and that hazards will proliferate. OPRPs are also used to reduce the likelihood that the processing environment will be exposed to hazards. For any query in food certification, you can contact us by sending an email to